Olá, seja muito bem-vindo ao JR Mundo e nesta edição do programa a gente recebe o diretor-geral da 28ª Conferência das Nações Unidas sobre Mudanças Climáticas, a COP28. Aqui comigo está o embaixador Majid Al Suwaid para falar sobre os preparativos para essa conferência climática que ocorre no final de novembro em Dubai. Seja muito bem-vindo ao nosso programa. Agora, antes do início da conversa com o embaixador, a gente lembra que toda quinta-feira tem episódio novo do JR Mundo, às 7h30 da noite, nas plataformas digitais da Record TV, e você está convidado a nos acompanhar sempre. Ambassador, thank you so much for your presence here, for your time.
Luis, it's a great pleasure to be here, and thank you so much for inviting me.
I appreciate. Ambassador, there is just over half a year to go until COP28 in your country. What do you expect from this kind of summit?
We really need to have a very successful COP because, as you know, since the Paris Climate Agreement, we're unfortunately off track from achieving those goals, particularly the goal of keeping 1.5 degrees or under in the temperature, and also in terms of mobilizing finance. So we really need a COP that is going to deliver big results, that's going to deliver action on the ground that makes a difference in the lives of people today, and we know that at COP28 we're going to do that.
Oh, great. Ambassador, will there be any significant difference compared to COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh last year?
Yeah, I think that COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh was really fantastic because our Egyptian colleagues were able to deliver a good result for the delivery of the loss and damage fund. Now at COP28 we need to operationalize that fund, but in addition to that we need to achieve the mitigation results that we need to deliver, which is a 43% reduction in emissions. This is a big task. We need to think of practical solutions, how we bring everybody together in a very inclusive way to deliver solutions. We need to deliver also a global goal on adaptation and doubling of adaptation finance. And what's most important and exciting about COP28 is that we're going to be hosting the first global stocktake since Paris. And that is very important because it'll assess where we are. And as I mentioned, we're not on track, unfortunately. But it means we really need to say what we're going to do to get back on track to achieving the goals.
The UAE will play host to COP28. How ready are you for this summit?
Well, if you haven't visited Dubai before, and I hope you'll come and visit us, Dubai is very well prepared for hosting COP28. Of course, it's a huge event. It's gotten bigger and bigger over the years. But we're very fortunate that we hosted Expo just recently, and so we have the Expo site. And we're very excited about the fact that we're going to be able to have the negotiations, which is the blue zone, right next to the green zone, which is the zone that's open to the public, that's open to civil society, indigenous people, young people, the community, so that we can not only have those really important negotiations, but right next door to it we can have the community being involved in the discussion and in the event itself.
And the people in Dubai are ready to host people from all around the world?
Yeah, Dubai is a multinational city. We have more than 200 people who live in the UAE, and Dubai, as you know, is a very active hub. In fact, 1/3 of the world's population is within a 4-hour flight of the UAE. Not many people know that. So we're very used to tourists coming to the UAE. We have the infrastructure. We have as I said, the Expo City already ready to host a COP, and we're very excited about it.
Ambassador, how many nations, how many countries you expect to participate for the COP28?
Well, we want every country to come and participate, but we know that it's going to be a big number, particularly because I mentioned to you the importance of this COP. This is going to be the most important COP of this decade, particularly because we're hosting the global stocktake, and as I said, that's a very, very important moment to assess where we are, but most importantly, where we're going to go.
And Ambassador, your country has been a first mover in the energy transition. Can this milestone be replicated across the world?
We think so. The UAE, indeed, as you said, has been a leader when it comes to the energy transition. You know, we are well known to produce one type of energy today, oil and gas, but we, for many years, have been investing in being part of producing the future type of energy. So around 20 years ago, we established a company called Masdar, which is today the #1 largest investor in renewable energy around the world, is active here in Brazil. We also are the host of the International Renewable Energy Agency, which is the preeminent organization for renewable energy, and we're investing hundreds of millions every year into renewable energy technology. we believe that this is the future, and we want to be part of it, and we are working full speed to be part of that future.
You have worked for nearly a decade in the energy sector and have extensive experience in the global clean energy transition. Is the energy transition more dependent on money or political will?
You know, of course, in every place, it's a different situation. And what we have to look at is how do we help countries, developing countries and developed countries, by the way, to create the right investment environments, to create the right opportunities, to mobilize through their government action, the deployment of renewables, but then also to see how the private sector can come in and deliver. You know, that's how we've been able to be successful in the UAE, is by that public-private partnership. And that's why today in the UAE, we have 3 of the largest, lowest cost solar projects in the world, but also why we're an investor in projects around the world. And we think that that's something that is replicable in every country. It's just that we need to mobilize the finance and the capital, and we need to make it available, we need to make it accessible, and we need to make it affordable so that people in developing countries in particular can take these technologies, deploy them, and then can use them for their development.
Ambassador, what role will high-income countries, the World Bank and other global financial institutions be expected to play here?
We need them to play a very important role. As you know, to achieve the goals that we want to achieve, we have to mobilize finance. Today, in Paris, we were promised to have 100 billion in finance. That unfortunately hasn't materialized, although this year our developed country friends have said that they think that they'll be on track to do that. But we need to move from hundreds of billions of finance to trillions, and that's a big jump. So to do that, we need to have reform of those international financial institutions. We need to have reforms of the multilateral development banks, and we need to look at what new solutions need to be there, because these institutions, of course, are used to doing things a certain way. So what are the new ideas, what are the new solutions that can help mobilize the government finance and then bring in the private sector so that we can see things scale up and speed up? The finance question is really the key to a lot of these issues.
The Brazilian president, Mr. Lula da Silva, has recently pointed out that many topics discussed in these forums are not implemented, unfortunately, of course. Do you believe the COP28 could be different?
I think that COPs have become a place where a lot of people come and make pledges, make partnerships in good faith, in goodwill, but of course these challenges are difficult. And yes, we need to see much more progress. We can't deny that over the years, COPs have been really great in building momentum, but that momentum has been incremental, and we need to see game-changing decisions. We need to see game-changing projects, game-changing investments. And what we hope from our COP is that we can really take that leap and have big results that are actioned on the ground. That's why we keep saying that our COP needs to be about action. It needs to be about delivering for people on the ground, in rural communities, in cities, indigenous people, young people. We need them to feel that projects and action is happening, and that's why we're very focused on this period between now and 2030, and what are the real solid projects and actions that can happen now.
How will you make that this COP will involve young people and is inclusive?
Yes, and actually we are the first COP we've nominated to have a youth champion, and we want that youth champion to be formalized within the UNFCCC process, because we think that it's really important to give a voice to youth. Our youth champion is Her Excellency Shemal Mazroui, who was our Minister of Youth, is now our Minister of Development, and she's really used to engaging young people in a conversation, collecting their thoughts and ideas, and then bringing it into our government process. That's something that we have an experience in the UAE, because we have a lot of young people, as you know, and we need to bring them into the governmental process, and we want to bring that to COP, because as you know, young people, and you saw it in Sharm el-Sheikh, I'm sure, they have a lot of energy and passion, and they're excited about the topic, and we need to make sure that their voices are heard, because the decisions that we make today are for their future, and so we have to make sure that they're part of that discussion.
In this kind of forum, do you believe you will be able to reach consensus in the discussions?
COPs are always very difficult, and it's always difficult to get consensus, but consensus is critical. And for a COP to be successful, you have to have consensus, and we will get there. Consensus in climate is very important because, as you know, climate has no boundaries. It's something that we have to do as a collective. We have to work together to to achieve the goals that we need to achieve. So that's why we want to have a COP of unity, a COP that brings people together instead of one that's divisive and is negative. We want to bring optimism and hope, and we want to bring people together into the conversation. That's why we keep talking about it being very inclusive, bringing everybody to the table, giving them a voice, like with young people, so that we can have an outcome that everybody can support and get behind.
What role Brazil play on these discussions over the climate change around the world?
Of course, Brazil has a long history of being a leader in this space, and we hope that Brazil can continue to take that role. We've been here for the last few days meeting with your officials. We've had wonderful meetings. Our relationship between Brazil and the UAE is getting stronger every day. I'm very excited about that. And we think that Brazil is going to play a very important role, particularly because of how it has a voice for developing countries. It gives a voice for the rainforest, for nature. And what I really love about Brazil and the UAE is that we think alike. We're countries that are developing, that we need our natural resources as part of our growth, but we also really appreciate the environment and sustainability, and we want to do it in a way that respects the environment. And I think that that's what brings us together, and that's what will really help. It will really help us if Brazil helps us to deliver a good result.
Ambassador, over the COP28 on Dubai, do you think the big countries as US, China, they're going to get some consensus about this discussion over the climate change?
This is very important that big countries come forward and join together and deliver results at COP28, because as I've said, we're off track, unfortunately, from achieving the goals of Paris. And that means that we need to reduce emissions, and we need to do it fast and quickly. And we can only do that if the large emitters are taking action to reduce their emissions. Obviously, we need that to happen through consensus, through them working together and coming forward with their pledges and their actions. And we believe that by working together, communicating and bringing people together, that we can deliver the big results. And we think that we can do that at COP28.
There's lots of discussions over who is the country who must pollute the world. And do you think this kind of conversations, dialogue, can result in something positive?
We have to think about not only finger pointing, we have to think about how we bring people together. At the end of the day, when it comes to climate action, we need people to feel that there's an incentive in taking action. We need them to see a future in it. So we need our COP to come with solutions and ideas that help us. For developing countries, that means about helping them with their development, helping them to lift people out of poverty in a clean way, in a way that respects the environment. And as I've said, the UAE and Brazil are two countries that are part of that journey. We want to develop using our natural resources, but we want to do it in a sustainable way without polluting. And for developed countries, we need the same support from them. We need them to support financially, but also with their technology, but we also need them to take action as well. So it's really important that we have conversations about how we bring people together, because it's only through collective action that we can achieve things. And we need to create positive stories. We need to create positive action.
There's a great worldwide discussion about the Amazon. The Brazilian Environment Minister, Mrs. Marina Silva, highlighted Brazil's sovereignty over the forest in a meeting with Mr. John Kerry, the U.S. Special Presidential Envoy for Climate Change. What do you think about these discussions over the Amazon?
I think it's very important that we think about deforestation and reforestation and the impacts that has on the climate. But we also need to have a conversation with countries like Brazil or the UAE about how they can continue to grow their economies, to lift their people out of poverty, create economic opportunity while being respectful for the environment. And I think that it's important in these conversations that we understand each other and we listen to each other, understand the challenges, and then help each other to try to address them. As we know, in many developing countries, there are many challenges that we have to deal with, but that doesn't mean that we have to stop progress. We need to start to talk about what we're building up rather than what we're taking away. What are the things that we're doing to help to improve our environment, to improve nature? And that means being inclusive, having lots of people coming to the table, nature-based solutions, solutions for industry in different sectors. We need to have action at every level. And that means working together and talking to each other and trying to come up with the solutions that are going to help us to get the success that we need, because that's what's important.
And that discussions depend more for the rich countries, the poor countries, or from everywhere?
I think the scale of the problem means that everybody has to take action. And as you know, in the UNFCCC process, that's what we've always been part, is that we all need to take action. However, of course, we have different abilities to do so. We have different economic situations. We have different developmental situations. And we need to respect those. And we need to help each other to address those challenges. We need to help developing countries or the poorest countries to be able to take the jump to new types of technology, to step over the sort of carbon-intensive phase of development. And in developed countries, they need to take action as well to reduce emissions from waste and things, from wasting energy or water or other things. And so the point is that we all need to take action, and we all need to face the challenges that we have. And if we work together, we can address them.
Let's talk about aviation now, Ambassador. Emirates, your national airline, has successfully completed a demonstration flight powered by 100% sustainable aviation fuel, the SAF, as part of the global aviation industry aim to use more of the greener fuel and meet carbon emission targets. What's the whole aviation place in these discussions about the climate change?
Aviation, of course, is one of those sectors that we call hard-to-abate sectors. So it's one of those ones where reducing emissions is very difficult, but using technologies like sustainable aviation fuel, it's maybe the future of how we do that. And of course, we need that industry to be part of the discussion and to be part of the solution. You know, aviation for us in the UAE is part of our diversification away from oil and gas. Today, we're very fortunate that 70% of our economy is not dependent on oil and gas anymore. But we want to continue to grow that sector and move away from dependence on oil and gas to the future, and aviation is an important part of that. Of course, it's also an emitting industry, so we need to look at what are the technologies and the solutions that can allow that industry to grow and create jobs or alternative jobs for us, but at the same time can be respectful to the environment and reduce emissions. And by the way, aviation is a perfect example of a sector where reducing emissions is actually economically beneficial, but the challenges are technological. And so rather than trying to prevent aviation from growing, let's work together to try to find solutions so that we can continue to be connected. And as you know, Brazil and the UAE is connected with a direct flight. We need that to grow, and we need that to continue, and let's find solutions and work together to allow both things to happen, the growth as well as the sustainable protection of the environment.
Still the aviation, Ambassador, because France banned short domestic flights and replaced them with train travel. Do you think it was a good idea?
I think that every country has to look at its situation and look at the policies that it wants to put in place to reduce emissions. And of course, countries like France will make different decisions. If they have a railway network, maybe that's a decision that works for them. For other countries, it's a different situation, right? And we need to look at those different solutions for different countries. I think that one of the things that we think is very important is to think about how we create new opportunities, new solutions that help to allow for that continued growth, that continued economic opportunity. And aviation is a very important sector. It's one that has allowed a lot of our countries to be interconnected, and we think that we need to support that, but of course we need to make sure that that's in a sustainable way and a way that allows us to maintain the environment.
We talk a lot of aviation, but there's other sectors that can contribute with the climate change. What kind of sector do you could highlight it for this discussion?
I think that it's very important that we look across the board, and at COP28 what we want to do is bring all of the different sectors to the table to have that conversation. It's important we talk about heavy industry. You know, heavy industry needs to think about how it reduces its emissions, captures carbon. By the way, that makes economic sense because they're reducing the energy that they're using, becoming more competitive. These are good things that they should be doing. We need to look at the oil and gas sector. How is the oil and gas sector going to come and be part of the solution? We're asking them to come, but we're setting a high standard and saying, you need to come and you need to tell us how you're going to be part of the solution. But then we need to look look at other sectors like agriculture. Not a lot of people think about agriculture, but agriculture can have a dual benefit. One, of reducing emissions, if we can think about electrifying the sector, reducing waste, the agricultural system. But then also in terms of the adaptation side, we need to start to think about what are the new types of crops that we need to be thinking of that can be resilient to a changing climate. As you know, many countries are facing the impacts of climate change today. Can we be working together to develop new types of crops or new types of ways of farming for our farmers to allow them to continue to be productive when we have a changing environment? We also need to look at water, we need to look at health, we need to look at many different sectors and industries. And if everybody contributes their little bit, it'll add up to a lot, and hopefully that can make a big difference.
Great. Brazil is planning to host the COP30 in the Amazon state, in the Amazon province. Do you think it's a very good idea to host this kind of summit on the bottom of the Amazonic forest?
Yeah, I think that it's very exciting that Brazil is hosting COP30. We've been working with the Brazilian government and our Brazilian friends in the negotiations to try to see how we can bridge from COP28 to COP2030, and we're very excited about that. But yes, we need to have COPs being in the developing world, in the places that are being affected. We can't just have COPs in big cities in the developed world, which are, and you know, we need to make sure that our negotiators are in touch with people, with humans, with people in rural communities, people in indigenous people in the forest, people in the cities as well, but people who are being impacted by climate change today, so that we can highlight the problems, highlight the challenges, and try to find solutions and deliver solutions to solve those problems.
What could you tell us about your conversation with the Brazilian government about environment issues?
We've had very great conversations with our Brazilian colleagues. We share the same ambitions of being very ambitious when it comes to climate change, keeping global temperatures under 1.5, mobilizing the capital, working with developing countries together. And so we are on the same page when it comes to climate change. We've had excellent meetings this week, and we're very excited about working with our Brazilian colleagues.
As COP28 presidency, you have said unlocking climate finance is key to making progress against the goals set in Paris. How do you plan on moving the climate finance agenda forward?
Well, we've been very successful already. At the beginning of the year, we really highlighted this point that it was very important to show how we're achieving the 100 billion this year. As you know, developed countries haven't been able to deliver that yet. But this year at the Petersburg Dialogue, just recently, they announced that they think that they'll be able to deliver it this year. So we feel very excited about that. But moreover, we need to move from hundreds of billions to trillions of investment annually and globally. And that is a big step. What we need to do that is reform the international financial institutions, have reform of the multilateral development banks, and we need to find what are the new solutions and ideas out there that can help to bring that government finance together with the private sector finance to deliver big results that speed up and scale up the projects on the ground that impact the lives of people today.
You are traveling all around the world. You are visit many countries. What kind of message you leave on these countries that you have been?
We've been very fortunate that over the last few months we've been going on a listening tour. We've been going around the world, hearing from different people, not only governments, but indigenous people, civil society, NGOs, young people. And we've been getting all of those ideas and thoughts and the challenges that they face, and are trying to incorporate that into our COP to make sure it's a very inclusive process, one that doesn't talk about preventing people, but talks about bringing people in. And we've heard very positive messages from everybody we've met, and we've taken on board all of those ideas. And everywhere we've gone, we've said, look, help us to deliver an ambitious COP, because we can't have a COP that just delivers a small incremental gain. We need a COP that delivers big results. And we think that we're getting a lot of excitement and a good response, positive response from these countries that we've been to.
And what is the biggest challenge to host a summit like this?
I think the scale. You know, I was the chief negotiator for the UAE several years ago, and I went away for a while and came back. And it was certainly different. The COPs before were much more technical, smaller scale. Now the size of the COP is much bigger. You have much more different groups who are coming. You have the negotiators and the negotiations, but civil society, NGOs, business, the private sector are much more involved and much more present at a COP. And so the scale is the challenge. But, you know, in the UAE, we're used to handling big events. And for us, this is something that we can do very well.
Ambassador, in Sharm el-Sheikh, we didn't see the final report on the end of the summit. Do you think this situation could be repeated in Dubai this year?
It's absolutely critical at COP28 that we deliver an outcome. And that has to happen because we have the global stocktake and we're mandated to deliver the global stocktake. And we need from that to be forward-looking to produce results. We're also mandated to deliver on the global goal on adaptation. And we have to deliver operationalization of the loss and damage fund. So we have things at COP28 that are required, which is quite different from other COPs. And that's what makes COP28 significant, is because parties have already agreed that these things have to happen. And so we are very confident, and from what we've heard from the parties involved, is that we're going to deliver a big result at COP28.
Ambassador, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your presence here.
Please, thank you so much.
Nós agradecemos a presença do embaixador com as informações sobre a produção, a realização da COP28, que acontecerá em novembro em Dubai. Nós ficamos por aqui e a gente lembra que o JR Mundo é o nosso espaço para falar de temas de relevância internacional. Você confere um novo episódio sempre às quintas-feiras, a partir das 7h30 da noite, nas plataformas digitais da Record. Não esqueça também de curtir e compartilhar esta edição do programa. Muito obrigado pela sua companhia e até uma próxima edição.